So before we go on recording, I just want to double check with you guys. I'd like to do a little OGCC update on the stipulated order of other business tonight, just where we're at with it. And that would be on item 12. Anybody, is there any reason not to do it tonight? Oh, but you got that stuff. Yeah, that's what they got this until Saturday, but this gives me an opportunity to add more clarifying information that's really non-controversial and any objections from anybody? Okay. I'll put that on. With that, we get started.
Can lights are just grand. I was coming from Medford and I was afraid I was gonna be late, so.
You made it.
Huh?
You made it.
I made it.
Sorry, I haven't really covered everything.
Okay.
I got you. I need white shoes.
All the waiting period. Tell not to put my arm, I'm gonna do it here. Maybe. Oh, great. Oh, okay.
She said it sounds like fun.
I did say.
No.
That might be an ism that I have. I probably say that a lot.
It's a good one.
It might be a completely new group.
That's what I said. Mhm. It'll be entertaining regardless. We're not voting on these tonight. No, okay.
Tons of. Media.
I gotta say, I love the way this is laid out in the pamphlet with the notes and explanations. It really brings me right back to it.
Yeah, well, it helps me keep track.
Yeah.
Are we able to just go ahead and start the meeting or is the recording on?
Yeah.
I think as long as you
Okay,
have,
everybody got their green light on?
Green for go. Green light.
Green for go, green for go. All right, it is the 18th of September. Let's call this Talent City Council study session to order at about 6:05. Roll call, please.
Sorry, Mayor.
That's okay.
Audio problem. Counselor Coley,
Here.
Counselor Panemarov,
Here.
Counselor Greider,
Here.
Counselor Pestizo is not present. Counselor Byers is not present. Counselor Para Miller,
Here.
Mayor Ayers Flood,
Here.
Mayor Yokel.
Thank you, Hector. Item on the agenda is discussion on council rules of procedure. Staff.
Thank you, Mayor. About a year ago now, we started looking at the council rules to see if we needed to revise some of them, and clearly we did need to update some of them. We agreed at the time that we would sort of take it in steps and go through once. And then when we have done all that, come back and look at the whole document, 16-page document at one time, before then bringing it to you in a resolution for adoption. We are down to the very last 5 paragraphs on page 16, which shows up on the screen. You also have in front of you hard copies of the proposed updated version, as well as at the back of that, the current council rules. Similarly, online, if anybody's looking online, they can see towards the end of the attachment to the agenda item, the existing council rules. So you can kind of compare. So what we'll start out with today is looking at those final 5 paragraphs on section 8. And then start over at the beginning and go as quickly as we can, because hopefully you've made all the decisions on, most of the decisions on those. There are a few that we identified as we went through that you wanted to kind of think through again. And I will highlight those, but you may today think of some other things you'd like to change as well. So let's just start with section 8, media and social media guidelines. And these are not so much rules as reminders for the council and anybody watching a council meeting. So if you take a look at A through E on page 16, take a quick look, and then I'll have a couple comments and then ask for your input. Okay, I'll start in then on section A, 8A. The purpose of that is really to indicate not a restraint on council members, but actually an added responsibility that you have to make sure if you're making comments in public about a matter of business for the city, that you and it's different, and your position is different than what the council has approved by this point. You need to make clear that you're not speaking for the council.
Councilor Panomar.
Yeah, so what you just said, I'm not saying in the paragraph matters.
That does remind me that we've heard from constituents that sometimes it's hard to hear, so this lets everybody make sure that we're speaking clearly to the microphone, which I'm sure we are. That just reminded me to say that.
Thank you. That matters pertaining to the city. And I think I've seen that in these council rules. I was reading earlier today and I saw it. I'm not seeing it in this paragraph. I think that would be helpful to have that.
If I may, because of points that you raised in our earlier discussions, I did try to distinguish between comments on city matters and other comments. So one can imagine a situation in which the council was taking a position on a state measure. And even in that case, this is to clarify that your responsibility is, you're commenting on it as an individual, to make clear that you are commenting as an individual and it's not the city's position.
Okay, so then I see. So it's covered like official position of the public body. So there has to be like an official position of the public body.
Right.
Okay, so I mean, I could say daffodils are the very best flower in the world and not worry about if the council hasn't taken a position. And that's just a hypothetical example.
But you'll see in the subsequent paragraphs below that, do identify city, city business.
Right,
And
okay,
so we'll get to that.
thanks, great.
Paragraph B is just again, just and C and D really are just reminders for council members. Mostly just to let you know that you may by comments that you're making on social media, you may end up into a gray area or a problem area that the Ethics Commission will question you. So this is just a reminder, keep out of those gray areas. And D is really important in terms of making sure we don't accidentally slip into a public meeting where we have a quorum speaking even seriatim in emails or phone calls. So you accidentally and not intentionally, that unintentionally create a meeting by having multiple conversations with about city business.
Mayor, I mean, to replace David.
Okay,
It's not working. And then section E is a new this is 8E is a new section. Just to, again, to clarify that the official spokesman for the city council, of course, is the mayor. And a reminder to other staff of their different role. There are no comments or questions. And if you're looking at the hardcover version, flip it over so we can start at the beginning. And I'm going to move online here to the very beginning. And once again, we're going to kind of take this in chunks. And the first chunk would be all of section 1. You just take a quick look at that and see if there's anything that jumps out at you. In particular, look at B, where you decided at a previous meeting that you wanted to review these council rules every year. You may be sick of that by now and have a different view, but that's something to look at.
So this reflects the conversations that we've had previous. So this is sort of like an updated. version based on
Exactly.
past feedback. Okay.
And I've tried in my comments off to in the margin to identify even the meetings where you did talk about those particular provisions.
Yes. That's awesome. Thank you.
Is there any value in assigning a time of year to be? Because I think the intention, I recall, was really about just getting a refresher and being able to help new counselors look. So like maybe at the beginning of each year.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make that change when I bring this back to you as part of a resolution. Anything else in that chunk of section 1A through E? D is just mention that because it's the second half of it is talking about the procedural rules for our commissions, which we're going to be discussing at our meeting on, I think it's October 30th,
The summit.
and see about trying to kind of merge and make consistent with each other the various bylaws of our commissions. Okay, no comments on that section. Two, if you look at 2A through C, next couple of minutes on that.
Can you scroll down on the Zoom?
Oh.
Thank you.
Is there any value in adding clarifying language? Sorry, I hate to do this to you, Dave. Is there any value in adding clarifying language to the quorum consists of a majority of council members? I mean, there have been times over the 20 years that I've served the city where I've seen a lack of understanding that our charter uniquely does not include the mayor in that. So just for an easy reference to be able to maybe parentheses that or something. Just especially in light of the fact that there's going to be an annual review. That way everybody will, I mean, I have seen times where that gets lost in the wayside.
You've seen me get that lost.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna call that out, but I mean, I have, you're not the first, believe me, when I tell you, so.
Yes, we did try to address that above in section one. Where is it?
1E,
Yes, 1C.
oh, 1C.
But I think it is worth reiterating in this section 2A as well.
Oh, I wouldn't hold it up over that change because I do think that makes it perfectly clear, but honestly, actually, I agree with you because sometimes people just jump straight to A, and,
So when I come back, I'll have that parenthetical confirmation. Anything else in section 2A through C? I think it's pretty straightforward.
I just wanted to say something about quorum as well. So I'm just real appreciative of you counting the newly elected councilors who haven't been sworn in, but they're due to start. Because that can be a thing if half the council is gone, as has happened. So that, that's the first meeting of the year, new counselors, somebody else isn't there, then we don't have quorum. So that solves that problem. So thanks for doing that.
Okay. Moving on to page 2 and section D on executive sessions. That jump from the comics there. I believe one of the changes in D2 was just to make clear that persons, especially invited by the council members to attend the executive session in order to shed some light on the topic, obviously can attend those without violating the executive session requirements. There's no comment on that. I would ask you to move over to page 3, section 2E through G. Now, if you look at subsection E, study sessions, I discovered a little wrinkle as I was thinking through this today. It says that the presiding officer shall determine whether the public's allowed to participate in discussions in a study session. Later on in these rules, there's a reference to allowing for suspension of the rules. In which case, it's not just the executive or the presiding officer who's making the decision, it's the full council. So I think a little addition there to make that clear that the full council can participate in a decision to allow. It is common for people, I think, to expect to be able to testify to these study sessions. And I think typically we haven't allowed that unless there's been a special reason for it. I think articulating it here in the rules will help people understand why it's not being allowed. Basically, the study session is a place for the council to think together. And then before making any decisions, of course, they would have to go to the regular meeting where the public is allowed.
Right.
Looking at F and F1, there was some uncertainty when we talked about this the first time through as to whether it's too much to require at least 48 hours in advance if possible, if you're not going to be able to attend the meeting. What's the right time period? We chose 48, but we said explicitly, let's think about that before we finance it. So that's one question. And then the remote participation also is 5 times per year maximum. Is that appropriate? Does that need to be worded some other way? So let me talk to you about that. If you help with it.
Counselor Penamarath.
Well, I'm just thinking of the example where I participated remotely because I was ill and, you know, I didn't want to make other people sick. I think that can be, you know, sometimes you don't have 48 hours for that, but in any kind of special situation, couldn't the council just suspend the rules and say, oh, we need somebody for quorum, they're sick, they're gonna remote in, we can do it. Can we handle specific situations that arise with suspending the rules is my question.
I think I'm missing the context for that.
If, for whatever reason, if it's not the 48 hours or if it's more than 5 times, if,
You mean for the time frame or for the option to zoom in?
yeah, the option to zoom in. Or even the time frame. If all of these things can be suspended, although I guess if you didn't have quorum, you wouldn't be able to suspend the rules.
Well, I think we talked about some, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we talked about somewhere along the line, actually broadening that definition. I mean, F1, to not have, not to constrain it with 5 times, because we've sort of experienced an ability to, you know, have someone, for example, who's on maternity leave, or have somebody, for example, who might be caring for a senior parent, or have somebody who might be a young mother with childcare. We have an opportunity to open this up and create accessibility for more folks by not constraining
I remember that.
this down to 5, just 5. So I don't know if we're talking about the same thing. Like, I don't have any heartburn about 48 hours if possible, because if possible, this is just encouraging people to try and give us as much advance notice as possible, and if possible. But if it's not possible, it doesn't, no harm is done. But I'm particularly focused on, so I don't know if I jumped right over your question with that or not, but
Well, I think you addressed it. Yeah, I'm not really concerned. Yeah, I think your question is the better one right now.
I love the idea of just saying any counselor or mayor may participate remotely, period.
Yep.
And, like I said, for the first time, we've been able to entertain young mothers, for example, voices we've never been able to hear from. Counselor Perry Miller.
Yes, I agree. And I also I'm coming back to this wording here, and it just makes me think about like even just the administrative burden of like trying to keep track of how many times someone has participated over Zoom, and just how that feels so unnecessary and like more work than it's actually trying to solve, by just encouraging people, if they can attend in person, to attend in person. So I agree.
A potentially slightly different angle on it is mentioned in the comment on F, not F1, just F, where Metro City Council's their rules say that the council can be removed if absent from the city for over 30 days without the council's consent. Or from all meetings of the council within a 90-day period. I don't know if that's ever been a problem here. I know it has been in some other cities in Oregon, where somebody sort of got elected, 2 years later decides they're not that interested and they stop attending. And we don't have any rules, either in charter or in these rules to account for that kind of situation.
Wait, I thought we did at one time. I'm sorry, go ahead, Counselor Ryder.
Is there a way, I guess I'm trying to think through this in terms of what Counselor Perry Miller said about reducing kind of administrative tasks, and then, but also I do see value in keeping in touch with, and not that people need to share all their personal situations, but is there a way to include something along the lines of is in communication with cities? I mean, I guess this says provide 48-hour notice if they're unable to attend any meeting in person. Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's something here about, of course, in person is best, but if, by circumstance, I sort of do like that this goes a little deeper in the F1. But I do think the whole tracking of the 5 times and then can get a little cumbersome. So I don't know if there's sort of a middle ground there.
Well, I can certainly pursue the mayor's comments about making simpler any member may participate remotely. common communications. The sentence above that where, members are asked, the mayor is asked to provide advance notice to the council president. And the city manager if they're unable to attend a meeting in person. That's partly so we can make sure we make the electronic arrangements to
Right.
participate online. That's if they're going to be able to do that.
Or make sure that there's a presiding officer available to.
That
Yeah.
also feels important for a counselor. I feel like Hector might appreciate that heads up to know for, for the web setup. I always try to do that. Maybe that's something to include at least.
Counselor Collet?
Yeah, I agree about just making in-person attendance and Zoom attendance is totally the same. It doesn't make any difference. I would advocate for having some level of attendance policy to prevent the absenteeism that Dave's talking about. I don't know if that's a number of days, like you said, it was, if you don't communicate with the city in 30 days,
Council consent.
that's kind of an interesting way to put it. I mean, we could come up with a number of meetings, but
I thought it was in the charter.
I can look back at this and I did not find it.
I think we have to have something to prevent
Yeah,
that scenario. And then
same with-
obviously, if somebody has a circumstance, I mean, the council can accommodate that,
Y-
but yeah, I don't think we'd want to end up with somebody who just doesn't attend for a year.
I'm not even, I mean, honestly, there was or is some language somewhere on that, and I don't know how, I mean, I don't know. If if it's somewhere or if it got dropped, I'm not sure, but
It rings a bell for me too.
Well, I gotta check on that, but if you'd like, rather than sort of plow through that right now, when it comes back to you as a resolution, I can have double check that for you and we can discuss this particular point again and make sure we're comfortable with it.
that sounds fine.
That makes sense to me.
I have a quick question.
Counselor Perry Miller?
Just about this little side note over here, Dave, around the Medford's language around removal of a member. I guess I'm not saying that we need this, but I'm just so confused how they could remove a member and I guess what removal actually is defined as, because my understanding was that that only could happen if there was a recall. That this council doesn't have the power to deny any of its members being present, or like any council. That's a little bit in the weeds, so it's okay if you don't have an
Let
answer
me
to that.
try to define it indirectly. There is a charter provision. If you look
Yeah.
at my note, I actually quoted it.
It's 19
What
something.
it says is council shall have the power by 2/3 affirmative vote to expel any member of the council for inattention to duties, but only after a process determined by the council and documented within the council resolution of rules. And we don't have anything in the resolution of rules.
So you were just now reading from the charter, right?
Well, yeah, what I'm reading from my notes, which is a quote from the charter, charter section 21.
So section 19, vacancies. The office of the member of the council becomes vacant upon unexplained absence from all meetings of the council within a 30-day period. Ceasing to reside in the city, there, it goes on, you know, there's A, B, C. Yeah, upon declaration by the council of the vacancy in case of the incumbents, A, B, and B, so it's 19(2)A. No, excuse me, 19(2)B.
Okay, I'll look at that, but also look at 21.
Yeah.
Because it's saying, there seems to be an inconsistency then in the charter. Because section 19 says it can be automatic. And section 21 says it can't be automatic, there has to be a process that's set up in the council rules.
So I don't want to sound disagreeable, but in my opinion, Because this is voted in by the people. The people are saying that the seat becomes vacant if you don't show up for 30 days. And then it goes on to say, but if the council wants to expel you for a reason, and it doesn't necessarily include absenteeism, because absenteeism is already dealt with in 19. It's calling out a procedure that you can't just expel somebody. You're going to have to go through a procedure to do that. So I don't disagree with you, what you're saying. Section 21 suggests that we're missing something from here to expel somebody, and we probably need to address that. But I think in the terms of absenteeism, that's already clear, and the people have made that clear.
I agree with what you're saying.
Okay, thank you.
So that is a change that we need to add next time around. What is the process, apart from absenteeism? If there's any attention to detail, what's the process?
Yeah, for expelling somebody for any other reason besides
Other
what's in 19, well, what's in 19, A through, like, there's a list,
Yeah.
A through H, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Next item, is attendance by staff. I don't think there's anything problematic in that. So if you look next to the section, it's 2.8. It starts at the bottom of page 3 and goes all the way over to the top of page 5. But we had quite a bit of discussion. If you would just kind of look over that and see if we have captured the
Some of those.
Question, are we all the way down to the bottom of page 5 for this section, or?
no, just to the top of page 5, and then the number 4 there,
Okay,
because I want to, the number 4, I want to look at more specifically.
Council Pare Miller?
I'm stuck on the bottom of 3, the second part of H1. Just around remote participation by one or more council members, a location shall be provided. That's just what we're doing here. I just don't know, why does it say in all council meetings in which remote participation by one or more council members occurs? Wouldn't it just be all of our meetings? Does it need to say one or more council members? Maybe it does.
Yeah, well, you're right, maybe not need that qualification.
Yeah. I always thought it meant to intend, if all council members were attending remotely, that you'd have to have a place for people to come to listen to it. But if they didn't have a way to listen electronically themselves, I guess, it'd be like the opposite.
That's accurate. If we were all online like we were for a while, we need to make sure there's not only a place for an opportunity for people online to see it, but to come to a spot where we set up online access to it.
I just watched Hector have PTSD when he had to set up the meetings in here when we were having those
Is
meetings.
that new with the new House bill that we were talking about, that requirement? I'm
Yes.
assuming it is a
Yes.
requirement. Wow.
Well, actually, there's always been a requirement that we provide a place for somebody to come and watch online if they don't have online capability themselves. So if you
It's a
were
lot.
tonight, they can come here.
It's a lot of work.
If they don't have online.
Staff.
capability. If we were meeting online again, we would have to provide those.
During COVID, when offices were closed, if you were still to meet, you would still need to open a space. I mean, as long as you meet, then you need to provide that space
Yeah,
in
we need to
person.
provide not only online ability to watch the meeting, but also
In person.
non-online, a place where somebody can come if they don't have a computer and see it online.
That's
I-
a lot of work for small cities. I'm just
Yes, it is.
saying.
So I would argue
But-
we shouldn't change that after all.
No.
Any other comments?
And then over on the next page 4, we have really implemented this already. We've been, our practice lately has been to have what we're now here called public forum. Instead of dividing it into non-agenda, public comment during non-agenda items, on non-agenda items, and then public comment on agenda items. What we're doing in these rules is saying, if you have a comment, no matter what it's about, it needs to be made during public forum.
Oh, boy, that's gonna be so great to manage it that way. I mean, we're close to that, but yeah,
And
That was-
the other little change in here is to comply with the recent state law saying, people can testify at all. In person, there has to be an ability to testify online as well.
I just have a quick,
I know we also have to accept the request forms up to the same time.
Right, that's, they got it.
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I just,
Colleen?
that's what I wanted to clarify about. So that's worded correctly, that we're accepting request forms up until the forum commences. So at the start of the forum on each of those.
Okay,
This may be an unlikely situation, but what if our technology is failing and we're not able to allow the attendance? Do we have to just then not have the meeting?
no, there's qualifying language. If you look at 2B, the electronic participation needs to be allowed to the extent reasonably possible. And we did have some occasions here, a year or so ago, when we were having difficulties with our system and we couldn't get it all to work right. But Hector got that all figured out.
Counselor Panama?
I'm sorry, I'm still stuck on the bottom of page 3 when we talk about remote. I'm just wondering, are we handling the situation where like the quorum or the majority of the council are meeting at another location? For example, like some sort of joint meeting or some tour or something like that, where we actually have to go off-site to have the meeting for whatever reason? I'm wondering if that at the bottom of page 3 covers that situation, that we have to like bring some sort of recording equipment with us to record on our own, or
Well, a couple of points. One is if it's a remote, if you're going out to visit a site, for
Right.
instance, that doesn't count as a public meeting,
okay,
under the public meeting law.
okay,
You're allowed to do that on an on-site investigation.
okay.
The other point is, what if we're having a joint meeting with, the county commission?
Okay.
Those also are, well, I don't know about a joint meeting with the county commission, because this is going to be public meetings, for both parties.
Yeah,
Both, but-
and people could just go there
Yeah.
to witness those. Okay. No, I didn't know that about, I had forgotten about being off-site investigation, yeah, okay.
So it's clear to me that we're not gonna finish this tonight. And so there's no point in taking us past time. So we'll pick up where we left off. And I do want to suggest that everybody thoroughly read through now this final draft, or this close to final draft, and it might be easier to just open up the meeting and ask everybody, if we're all committed to this, ask anybody, is there any questions with the rest of the document, so that we can move through. Unless there is a reason, Dave, I don't want to hijack your process. If there's no reason, I just think that we could probably do that and commit to finishing it next time, just by asking questions of things that we discovered.
That'll be fine with me if it's okay with you. I just.
Yeah.
Make sure you were comfortable.
Any objections from the council on that? Can we all commit to doing a final thorough read here, so that we can let Dave finish, so we can all finish this project?
If I may, that very next page, page 5, about public health guidelines, that's one that got a lot of attention, and that's something especially to read pretty carefully and make sure that you're comfortable with it. So just sort of added request to the mayor's request that you read the whole thing and look at that one especially.
Okay, and if, Dave, honestly, if there's anything you want to slow us down on, you'll be welcome to do that, for sure. All right, everybody. So with that, we will conclude and adjourn the study session at 6:46.